Hey everyone, Kirby here, and today we'll be talking about stat numbers not going up in Fire Emblem games. One number that I'd really appreciate going up, though, is my subscriber total. If you like my stuff and you want to see more, or you just want to help me out, subscribing is the easiest way to do so. Liking and leaving a comment helps too, and if you don't know what to leave a comment about or something, then tell me what unit of yours has gotten the most stat screwed in any Fire Emblem run of yours that you've ever done. It's happened to all of us. Now, with that out of the way, on to the video about Fire Emblem. You ever play a Fire Emblem game, you're having fun with the strategizing and all that jazz, and suddenly the most important part of any Fire Emblem game comes upon you? The level up? Maybe your unit should get speed to help them double more opponents. Maybe their strength is a little low and they need that extra oomph to their attacks. And some HP and defense to help tank attacks would be nice, you know. This level up could be anything. It is such a time to be alive and...
Not good enough.
We've all experienced this at one point, and it's annoying. You might think, how am I supposed to beat the game with level ups like this, or something like that? Luckily, you aren't alone on that front, and in fact, people have even gone lengths to minimize getting stat screwed over by the RNG. Manipulating level ups in the GBA games, strategic use of bonus experience in the Tellius games, using Sigurd in Genealogy, the list goes on. Others, however, have embraced the art of awful RNG and have taken it to its logical conclusion, changing the game so that every single one of your units has a 0% chance of leveling up any stat. Their growths are 0%. Lynn's 60% speed growth? That's 0. Dimitri's 60% strength? Nope, that's 0 now. Practically everybody's resistance growth in Shadow Dragon? Nope, that's still 0.
Oh wait.
Point is, your characters get nothing upon leveling up. The only number that increases is their level. But there's no way that you can actually beat a Fire Emblem game without getting level ups, right? Actually, 0% growths is, in my opinion, one of the best and most fun ways of going through Fire Emblem games. They can all be beaten with careful enough strategy and planning, and the pain of not getting anything on leveling up becomes numbed and dull when you see this screen over and over and over and over and over. But we need to answer some questions about 0% growths before we get anywhere else. What's the appeal? Why play the game like this? I just said it was fun playing the game this way. How can it be fun? Isn't this fun?
I have to try harder.
After playing 0% growths long enough, you'll feel like getting this good of a level up is like playing Path of Radiance on easy mode. The best thing about 0% growths is that it removes any and all chances of your units getting RNG screwed. Units have to rely on their base stats, their weapon ranks, classes, all of that good stuff to be good. A big problem people have when talking about who the best units in a Fire Emblem game are, and I'm guilty of this, is using personal experiences instead of average stats and stuff like that. And in many cases, optimized play might not even be brought up. For example, using my own experience in Path of Radiance, you can see that this Ileana I use in my Iron Man, which unfortunately was lost to time. Yeah, maybe I should do another one of those sometime. Anyway, turned out really, really good. She's fast, she doesn't get weighed down by much. I gave her Wrath as a joke to crit more, but she takes hits reasonably well and is even really dodgy. She's got good staff rank on her, the works. She was honestly one of my best units, top 5 easy, and wound up even getting number 3 in total kills. But is she normally this good? Not necessarily, no. And even though I think she's pretty underrated in this game, sorry Radiant Dawn, by the community, I'd never say that she's top 5 in the game, not by a long shot. But that kind of issue simply doesn't exist with 0% growths. You can't get RNG blessed or RNG screwed, you're just stuck with your base stats. You get stat boosters and promo bonuses, sure, and every little bit helps, but when talking about unit viability, it doesn't change things nearly as much as, say, growth rates do. So 0% growths is good discussion material, cool, but why actually play it? Simply put, the challenge is fun. It's a different way to experience games that you've played a million times. Sure, you play them a million times because Fire Emblem games are just that great, but even the best game ever deserves some change-ups every now and then. 0% growths is unique, a different kind of challenge that you feel really good after overcoming. And overcoming that challenge is fun. 0% growths even changed my own outlook on playing Fire Emblem. When I play casually, I kind of stick to the characters whose personalities I like, only very occasionally branching out of those select few. These tend to often be early game units with low base stats and good growths. My favorite unit to use in any Fire Emblem game is Path of Radiance Boyd, for instance. But when I played my first Path of Radiance game with 0% growths, I had to face the reality that Boyd wasn't going to be useful for very long. His bases are iffy, and while his offensive growths are very good, still, in the early game, he dealt remarkable chip damage, and I was impressed with how helpful his shove utility was, being able to shove every non-mounted Grail Mercenary, barring Katri. This let me move a lot of my more frail units into a less dangerous position, since Boyd could shove them out of the way and take a few hits with his great base HP. It also helped Ike get closer to a seize point in a couple of cases, and sure, Ike can shove a lot of them, but I would much rather have Boyd be in the face of combat than Ike, especially in 0 growth. And again, I want to reiterate, this did not last forever, but I was really surprised at how good he was without a single stat gain. It also helped me appreciate pre-promotes a whole lot more than I used to. Going to a different game, which I didn't get a lot of footage for, sorry, I'm such a mess. Binding Blade has some very good pre-promotes, such as Marcus and Percival. And sure, even in a 0% growth setting, non-pre-promotes like Milady and Rutger are gonna do you really good, but the reliability of units like Zealot, Echidna, and, of course, Percival really made me appreciate having them around. I've even heard people say they appreciate Bartra for the same reason, and yeah, anything to get Binding Blade Bartra more love, I'll take. So that's cool and all, but isn't there a game that already has appeal like this? And how it's impossible to get RNG screwed, but your units can still get level ups and stat gains? Actually, wouldn't it technically be 2 in this case? Correct you are, astute viewer, because a joke you hear in the community a lot is that level ups don't matter in Gaiden and Echoes. This is because classes have minimum bases. Basically, if your stat is below what the minimum is for a class, you'll automatically jump to the minimum number upon promoting. It's why mercenaries are seen as so good in the early game. Your villagers automatically get to 10 speed upon promoting, no matter what, when beforehand they're often stuck between 4 and 6. In a game where you only need 1 more speed than the opponent to double, that is pretty sweet. And yeah, the way that Gaiden and Echoes handle it is really cool and unique. Granted, they do still get actual stat gains on their level ups, which defeats the whole point of 0 growths, but I'm not going to bring that up. Except I just did, oops. Because while it is a perfectly good counterpoint, the reality is that Gaiden and Echoes aren't the only games that have to have this kind of appeal. There are other Fire Emblem games. If I want to play Sacred Stones with 0% growths, I'll do it. And no, I don't mean solo the game with Seth. I mean, okay, I'll probably still get carried by Seth, but my point is 0% growths is fun, okay? Before we end the video today, if I picked your interest in 0% growths, you might be asking, where and how do I start? The how I don't really want to get too into, since that's not really the point of this video, but where is always a good question. Path of Radiance, for me, is always an easy recommendation no matter what, but in this case, it is especially interesting, considering that bonus EXP basically means nothing other than a method of promoting your units. Just make sure you're ready for Ashnard at the end, and trust me, you'll have a blast with Path of Radiance 0 growths. Otherwise, for an easy one, I can recommend Sacred Stones no problem. Even beyond Seth, you get great pre-promotes like Saleh, on top of having access to cool stuff like Null, who can become a summoner pretty quickly and grant you access to Phantoms, as well as there being a route split, which heavily changes how you route and plan for a good portion of the game. A lot of people will also recommend FE7, Blazing Blade, Blazing Sword, whatever, as well, but I don't really like that one, so you didn't hear that recommendation from me. Sorry, FE7 fans. Personally, I think the most fun one to play, if only for how brutally difficult and nonsensical it is, while also being legitimately engaging, fun, and crazy satisfying, is Binding Blade. Some parts of it, like Jennings, can be a bit much, but for the most part, getting through the game without gaining anything from level ups has got to be one of my personal greatest achievements in a Fire Emblem game to date. If I didn't have such a bad track record of uploading Fire Emblem challenge runs, I'd actually upload it for the channel, but I think I need to get back to that 3 houses one before I do that. I was in the middle of that, right? Yeah. Oh, speaking of, actually, while I'd never dream of playing or routing it, a variation of 0% growths actually does exist for 3 houses, and it is fascinating. If you want to know more, Rengor, a Fire Emblem YouTuber that specializes in stuff like this, is the place to go to look for the 3 houses challenge run. I'll link his YouTube channel in the description so you can look into his videos there. You technically can't do 0% growth since every student gets a minimum of 2 stats per level up, but the workaround was making these stats always be skill and luck. And this is a brilliant move since all that really does is reduce the chances of you getting completely screwed over by unlikely misses and crits. That, and the faculty members can still get blank level ups, which is really the most important part of any 0% growths run. If you don't have a completely blank level up, what's the point? And that's that. All I gotta cover about 0% growth. It's super fun, and I think you should try it out. Thanks so much for watching the video until the end. I've been Kirby Fan. I will see you in the next video, one with presumably much better level ups than this. Bye-bye.